Hey everybody, it's your newest edition of Commander's Wrap, where you get all your relevant Commanders news and a little opinion too in 15 minutes. I'm your host, Dr. Wonderful, joined here by my co-host and analyst, Kevin Bayne. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I can't complain. We're getting closer and closer to what combine, draft, mini camps. It's an exciting time for football, for sure.
Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and jump into our segments for today. We actually have three planned for our listeners today, but Kevin, segment one, 2 weeks later, and we're doing it again, saying goodbye to a former Commanders player. As news broke last week that Tre Johnson, former Washington Redskins guard, passed away suddenly during a family trip. Kevin, this is some stunning news. After so many losses for this fan base, we have another one. I was a big fan of Tre Johnson when I was a kid, watching the then Redskins play games. He was one of my favorite players to
Mhm.
watch, and I just feel like there's just been a lot of mourning been and things going on related to like the Skins and the Commanders this year. What are some of your thoughts on the passing of Tre Johnson?
Yeah. When you hear about Tre Johnson, it's not just about the player, that so many watched on Sundays. It's about the person connected to so many memories for this fan base. Uh, Trey was one of those steady, kind of unflashy guys, who in the trenches, who embodied, what it meant to play for the Burgundy and Gold. He showed up, he did the work, protected his teammates. Um, kind of what makes this loss even heavier is I think, is the timing. Like you said, it feels like fans have been grieving a lot lately. Players, heirs, identities from the Redskins days to the Commander era. Tre Johnson, he represents a bridge to a time that many fans still hold close. So losing someone like that, especially during like a family trip so suddenly, it really does remind you how fragile life really is. Yeah, at the end of the day, football, it's entertainment, but the people aren't replaceable. My thoughts and prayers are with his family and his former teammates and fans who remember watching him battle in the trenches. So yeah, this one hurts. It does.
Yeah, yeah. My but it's gut wrenching. I'm thinking about his children, obviously his wife. Just
Yep.
definitely condolences and prayers up for the family and friends and fans, right, of Tre Johnson. Um, but we are going to get on to our second segment, try to get up a little bit more happier news, or get to a little bit more football news anyway, as it comes to the Commanders. Let's talk about some recently released players, Kevin, that Washington may, and we do emphasize may here, be interested in signing once free agency begins in a few weeks. The Dolphins released defensive end Bradley Chubb and wide receiver Tyreek Hill, two players at two positions of need for Washington. It's also expected that defensive ends Trey Hendrickson and Jalen Phillips from Philadelphia, as well as running back Breece Hall, will all be allowed to hit the market. Overall, Kevin, this free agency class has not been considered like the best. However, as we were talking pre-recording, there seem to be a lot of legitimate players at positions of need in free agency that Washington could get. So, who are you interested from this group, if anyone? And of course, if I haven't mentioned anyone, feel free here, Kevin.
Yeah. As for this free agent group, you're right. Actually, they're saying it isn't being labeled a great free agent class overall. When you narrow it down to positions of need, I think there are some real options that we could possibly get, and I'll kind of just touch on each player really really quick. Kind of just what came to my top of my mind. I'll start with Chubb. He's one that immediately jumps out. If he's healthy, he's a legit edge presence. I mean, there's no question we need to improve on our pass rush. And he brings that experience. He has the power, scheme versatility. He's not cheap, but if the medicals check out, I'd have interest in him for sure. I go into Tyreek. I think he's a little bit trickier. Some people may say prima donna-ish. Look, the talent is there. It's undeniable. Like, the guy's got elite speed, right? They call him the cheetah for a reason. He's got game-breaking ability. But with that being said, he's also expensive and older than I think people some realize. If we're trying to build sustainability, I don't know if tying up a ton of money in a receiver makes sense. Unless you're really, really convinced that that one guy is just one piece away, then maybe it's a different story. Um, I will say though that said, he instantly changes how defenses play against you, and that's pretty big too. Um, Real quick, I'll move on to Trey Hendrickson. This guy, he's probably my favorite name on this list. He speaks for himself, right? He's productive, relentless. He's consistent. This is the type of edge rusher that we really need. I wanted him so bad last year. It didn't work out. I know there was a lot of hype around him. I think there's been a lot of hype around him again this year. Same thing. He fits. I think he fits what Quinn wants, philosophically, and wouldn't require the same gamble as Chubb, health wise. So yeah, I'm all for it. I don't want to give up the house to have him, but I definitely got to pay up, and I think he's a game changer. And then I'll go on to Breece Hall. I like Breece Hall. I don't love the positional value. For me, it's just personal opinion. Running back, I think, is one of those spots where they're like, I don't know. I'd rather draft than spend big money. Especially with how this offense is still taking shape as we speak. And then okay, go to Jalen Lane. I'm not real.
Jalen Phillips.
Jalen
Jalen
Phillips, I'm
Lane is
sorry.
our
Lane,
guy. Yeah.
Lane. It's Phillips, right? He feels more like a depth person than upside signing than a cornerstone. I'm not like 100% against it, but he just wouldn't move the needle for me. So if I'm ranking, this whole list here, I'm definitely going to go number one, Trey Hendrickson, and number two would be Chubb. That's if the health thing checks out. Um, with that being said, this free agent class, it may not only be flashy, but it does offer us a chance to get better where it matters most, and that's up front and on defense,
Hmm.
without forcing desperation moves. So we'll see.
Yes, we'll see. And about the running back position, I hear you, but I have to respectfully disagree here. There are
Yeah,
about 12 guys coming out. This isn't about Breece Hall. Like, if you look at free agent running backs, right? Seattle said they're not going to tag Kenneth Walker. That doesn't mean that he's going to be available, right?
right, right,
Right, but
right,
they're not
right.
going to tag him.
Hmm.
Yes, there's Breece Hall. Yes, there's Rachaad White. There's Etienne Jr. There's a litany. Like, this is why I don't see them drafting a running back. I see them just improving the position
Yeah,
via free agent. It's just too good.
yeah.
Like, it really is just too good. And they won't necessarily have to break the bank. I wouldn't mind like investing in some top end talent. I believe in running backs.
Hmm.
Football was
Yeah,
built
yeah,
around
absolutely.
the run, right? So
Hmm.
if you go Breece Hall or Rachaad White, that's kind of like top end talent there. But I'm not. They're just going to add in free agency. I just don't see them needing to draft a
Uh-huh.
running back because there are a lot. And I just think they're going to add somebody. I just do
Yeah,
from free agency. It's not a pick 'em case because it's never like that. Players also get to choose where they want to go.
yeah,
But with
yeah,
all of the running backs coming out, I just can't see that we're not going to pick up one of those dudes, and that dude is probably going to have a significant impact um, on this team.
yeah. And I hear you, right? And I'm not saying that definitely can happen. For me personally, I don't want to spend the big money. I have no problem going to signing a running back, right? If you can get Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker or somebody like that, I'm all for it, as long as they're not asking for top dollar. That's my opinion, though, right? So we'll see, though.
Yeah, we'll see. And I hear you about Trey Hendrickson. Rumors are Washington was interested in Trey Hendrickson
Hmm.
last year, as they should have been, but they weren't
Yes,
interested in doing the trade thing.
right.
Trey Hendrickson signed this deal with the Bengals with the agreement that he'd be free and clear to go and basically sign with whatever team thought that he was worthy,
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
And so, yeah, so if that's the case, I fully expect that. Washington may be in on those conversations, but I expect Washington to be in on these types of conversations with probably all of these guys.
Yeah,
Like, because you
yeah,
have to do your due diligence,
agreed.
otherwise you're being ridiculous.
Hmm. Yeah,
Right? Like,
yeah,
I'm like, stay away from Tyreek Hill,
yeah,
not just because he's over 30, but he had a devastating injury.
yeah, yeah,
Like, that's not going to help us with,
yeah,
like, that's
yep.
not the answer to what we need. We need a wide receiver too who can actually be on the field. This is the
Exa-
question that people had about, Brandon Ayuk, right?
Yep,
Like,
yep.
I need a wide receiver who's going to be on the field. Otherwise, 3 years in a row, and we're all like, who's wide receiver two?
Yeah, exactly. And even after that injury, he's not going to be cheap. He's still going to cost money. You know.
Right,
Yep.
but no, he's not going to get hit 30 some plus million a year.
No,
He's
no, no,
not.
no.
Like, that's not what's not with that injury, this, that, and the other. It's not gonna, but yeah, but I think the wide receiver market in free agency is a bit trickier.
Yeah,
There are like a couple of guys, and then there's like a significant fall off. It's
yeah,
not like running back where there are like probably 10 dudes.
yep, yep. And I think it's going to change too. Though you'll see more names come out. People that
Yes.
there's always these unexpected guys too. It's like, well, damn, I didn't know he was having issues with his team, right? It's like all of a sudden he's asking for it. Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll move on to our last segment, which is going to cover the upcoming NFL Combine, which begins tomorrow, and all of the fun on the field activities that we like to watch actually begin on Thursday. So what are you looking for in the combine, Kevin? What are you going to be focusing on? What positions are you going to be focusing on? And I guess with those positions, are there specific drills that you'll be focusing on or trying to watch as you look over these positions?
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I said, I won't name a specific name, just maybe positions when it comes to that combine because for me, this week is about verification, not so much prediction. The combine has a way of kind of reshuffling the boards kind of fast, sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong ones. A lot of guys look great on college tape. But the combine tells you whether that production came from athletic limitations, being hidden by a scheme, or from traits that actually translate to the NFL. Until I see movement, the agility, the skills that they bring, how it plays,
Mm-hmm.
the interviews. I'm just not locking myself into a name quite yet. Um, there's also the danger of falling in love with numbers. A fast 40 or a big vertical can spike hype. It doesn't always match functional football speed. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I want to see who confirms what we already believe, not who wins the underwear Olympics and jumps 3 rounds overnight, right? Uh, from Washington's perspective, draft strategy it matters, board value, the trade back scenarios, medicals, all that comes into play. Um, for now, though, I'm watching traits, not so much the jersey number. I'll say this: first and foremost, I'm locked in on the offensive line. As we all know, that's where games are still won and lost. The combine it really helps separate the athletic movers from guys who might struggle with speed and balance. So I'm watching like the footwork drills, short shuffles, another one. There was and 3 cone more than bench numbers. If you can move, bend, and recover, you've got my attention at that position. I'd say next, I'm probably looking at edge rushers. Yeah, this
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
no question. We know this. We definitely desperately need consistent pressure. Um, so I'm looking at that. The first step, the flexibility around the corner and how natural these guys look in space. That stuff shows up immediately in the combine. A great 40 is nice, but that 10-yard split tells the real story. Uh, I always be paying attention to wide receivers, especially separation guys. Not just straight line speed, but route smoothness, hands, how they transition in and out of breaks. We need playmakers who make life easier for the quarterback, not just these track star type of players. So there's you sit back and look and it's like, man, you start looking like we need help really all over the place almost. So it's kind of like take your pick, what you think is the most important and go from there. So number one, I'm gonna say that offensive line, you got to make sure that Jaden is protected and can throw in that pocket. But edge rusher and wide receiver definitely following behind it.
Right. Well, I think you should always take an offensive lineman in the
Yes.
draft. I
Yeah.
just don't think
You
that's
won't.
going to be
Yep.
pick 7 or 71
No. No. No.
for them. But I
You
don't
won't.
disagree with you.
Yeah.
there at all. But I'll definitely take your word for it on what kind of positionality you'll be looking at the combine, because I am not a combine person. It's actually my least favorite NFL event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think it just, like you said, it favors pure athletes,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
While like the Senior Bowl, the East West Shrine Bowl, right, kind of can better showcase what they do on the field and in a game, and like
Yep.
just my opinion,
Okay.
right? Just
No,
just
you're
my
right.
opinion.
You're right. I mean, that's 100. It's accurate. It really is.
Yeah. But thanks as always for your analysis, Kevin. We'll be back March 8th to recap the press conference and the combine. And we'll see if anybody popped for Kevin. And we'll also get you all ready for free agency when Kevin is going to give you his top free agent picks for the Commanders to try to go after and target, and that'll be interesting because we might have some competing ideas there. So that's going to be fun, Kevin. All right, for our listeners, I'm Dr. Wonderful. He's Kevin Bayne, and this has been your newest edition of Commanders Wrap, where you get all your relevant Commanders news and a little opinion too in 15 minutes.